Hey guys, my name is Evan and welcome to Country View Acres. So today I'm continuing on our new fencing project. We're trying to fence in this area back behind me so that we can move our feeder steers over here. And in the last video I showed putting in the corner posts, and since then I went ahead and I've put in our brace posts so that we can start building braces just like this. So I put these posts in and I was shooting for an 8-foot space between the two posts to be able to build this brace. So I've got 3 more braces that are ready to be put together. So let's go ahead, we'll move on to the next one and I'll show you a little bit more in detail on what I'm doing here. So the posts I have in the ground, these are 6-inch round posts. They're 8 feet long. So that means I've got 38 inches in the ground and 58 inches out of the ground. And then for the brace posts that go in between, this is a 4-inch round, 8-foot long post. So I've tried to make these posts 8 feet or less in between them. So most of these will have to have an inch or two cut off the end to get them to fit in here. So to hold the posts up in place, we're using what they call a brace pin. So this is a 3/8 inch pin. This is made out of aluminum. This one is 10 inches long, and then there's a short one that's 5 inches long. And instead, if you don't want to use these, you could just use 3/8 inch rebar and cut it to whatever length you need. Or some people will use really big, like 12-inch galvanized nails, and they'll nail those through the post to hold the brace up in place. So on the inside of the post, I'm putting a mark at 38 inches, and that's where we're going to drill for our brace pin. So I'm going to drill this about 2.5 to 3 inches deep. And then make sure that's pointing straight in the direction of your fence. So this inside one's going to get the short pin. So the next thing I got to do is just cut this down to fit in between the posts. This one needs to be 94 7/8. So in the end of each post, we're going to find roughly where center is, and then we're just going to go above that about 1/2 inch. So with that hole off center, that's just basically making the center of gravity low, and then the post will want to hang and not want to spin. So if you get it about in the middle, it'll keep spinning on you and fighting you. So I'll mark what the top is on this side. And then we will go ahead and put a hole in this side as well. I always like making it a tight fit. Oh, there we go. All right. A little high on this side. All right, so it looked like to be perfectly level, this needed to be about 3/4 of an inch lower. So I probably could have just drilled it at 38 and been fine, but just trying to make sure everything looks good. Yep, and this one is the one that gets drilled all the way through, gets the 10-inch brace pin. Put it all the way through till it's flush on the other side for now. Oh. So we're going to leave that pin hanging out about 1 inch, and that's what our brace wire is going to loop around, and then it's going to go down there where it's going to loop around a staple that we're going to drive in. So for this bottom staple, I'm just going to come up 3 inches. I'm going to put a mark at 3 inches. So we hammered our staple in, it's sticking out about 1/2 inch, and then we put these 2 additional staples in there, and that's just for when the wire wraps around underneath this staple, it doesn't dig into the wood, it just has some metal for it to slide against. That's what that's for. So for the brace wire, I'm using high tensile wire, and I'm going to pull off somewhere close to 20 feet. So just wrap it around the post, make sure I got a couple extra feet, and I'll cut it off. So this wire is so hard it'll ruin a good set of cutters. I'm using these Nip-X miniature bolt cutters to cut this stuff. So you can wrap your wire around in a big circle, or you can wrap it around in like a figure 8 like I'm doing here. Make sure it's over the top of the pin on that side, and then we're going to try to make sure to slide it under the staple over here. So no matter where you do this, just try to make sure your connector, where you connect this at, or your tensioner, is where you can get to it, and either be on away from the fence or in the middle here where you can get to it. So there's several different ways that you can put this together and tension it. You can use like a ratchet tensioner, and you have to have a little tool that you can crank it up and tighten this. You could also just crimp this together and then put a board in here and just twist this wire, and just keep twisting this wire until it's all tight. But what I'm going to be using is going to be called a gripple, and it basically slides on one direction and it can't pull off, so it's kind of self-locking. So go ahead, it takes 2 wires, put both wires through, and then we're just going to pull this, and then we're going to double check everything. Tighten that up a little bit more by hand. So this here is a gripple torque tool, and that's what's used to tighten this up. It's got torque settings here where it'll actually click like a regular torque wrench. So you open it all the way up, you can put the wire in there, then it'll grab and it'll start feeding it through and tightening. And then we'll tighten this thing up pretty tight. After you tighten that, you still want to leave at least 4 inches on there, just so you can come back and retighten if needed. And then you just basically bend these around the wire so that they aren't poking out so far. So I used a gripple to be able to tension up that brace wire, but you could also use this. This is a ratchet strainer. A lot of people use those. You have to have this tool, and you wrap your wire in there, and once it's wrapped in there, you can basically just keep wrapping it, and you can just tighten it up. And you can use one of these tensioners as well. It just depends on how much money you want to sink into it. So these are probably more expensive than a gripple, but this tool is a lot more cheaper than the gripple torque tool. But honestly, I think I like the gripples. They're just so handy. I can use them for a lot of things, and they're small. You hardly even notice they're there. So this brace is all done. So the way that works is your brace wire is pulling back right here, and it's pulling it back this direction, and it's keeping force this direction because our fence is going to pull that direction. So that's helping keep everything straight and not get shifted with the force of the fence. Now, when you're putting this together, you really want this to be a 20-degree angle. You're shooting for the lowest angle you can get. So we've got from 3 inches at the bottom to 38 inches here. We've got a 35-inch across 96 inches, and that makes this almost exactly a 20-degree angle. And that means most of our force is actually pulling that direction. Now, if you have a short brace, say you got a 4-foot brace, and you've set this up higher and you've got a 45-degree angle brace wire, you have just as much force going that way as you do actually pulling up on this post. And I've done that before, where I've set this wire up at a higher angle, and when you start cranking on it, this post starts coming out of the ground. So you want to keep this angle as low as possible. So our first 2 braces are done, so we're going to have a stretch of fence from here that is going to pull down to that first brace we built. Now our next stretch of fence is actually going to go from here and go that direction. So I'm going to go ahead and build another brace right here, and it's going to be exactly opposite direction as what this one was. All right, we've got both of these braces built. So we've just got one more down at this end to do, and I think that'll finish up the braces for today. So this is the last brace to do today. Now, if you can tell, hopefully you can tell on the camera, this is going uphill. So this goes up about probably close to a foot from the distance between these two. So when we put the brace across here, we're definitely gonna have to use the level. So it'll look kind of funny because it's going to be low on this post just because we're going uphill. So I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna do this one. I'm gonna set a timer. I'm actually gonna set a stopwatch, and we're gonna see how fast I can actually do this when I'm not trying to operate cameras. So let's go ahead and go. All right, 10 minutes, 47 seconds. 10 minutes, 50 seconds. I mean, yep, just under 11 minutes. I was able to put that together. Now I did make a mistake. I don't know if you guys caught that. I put the staple down at this end, and when I went to wrap my wire around, I realized I didn't have a staple down there, so then I had to staple another one over there. So I did make a minor malfunction mistake, but no big deal. Just got an extra staple down at that end. So I think that's all the braces I'm gonna do today. It's like, what time is it now? It is almost noon. I've been trying to do this in the morning. So it's actually almost 11. So I started around 8 o'clock this morning, getting everything together, and it has been brutal this week. It has been close to 90s. It jumped from being in the 50s to the 90s. So definitely trying to do this in the morning, and then I try to do some other stuff either in the garage or inside during the afternoon. So I think that's all I'm gonna actually do with this today. So I still need to go get fencing. I need to go buy a roll of fencing. What else do I need? Oh, I need to buy a 16-foot gate for here. Probably gonna put a gate at the other end by the white barn as well, because we probably, at some point in time, want to turn that white barn at the other end into a livestock barn. So I'll probably put a gate at that end so that we can open it up and eventually put the steers into that barn. But I think that's it for today. So this is how you build a single H brace. That's probably the most common fencing brace that people use. And again, I use the gripples just because it's quick and it's easy. Once you got the torque tool, it's fairly cheap after that. And you can use that to splice fence, tighten fence, used for a lot of stuff. And I'm sure we'll see it used more as we build this fence. But I think that's gonna be it for today, guys. So thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.